Let's talk psychic mediums and the metaphysical. Welcome to Two Girls with Grief podcast. We're your host. I'm Kendel.
And I'm Rachel.
The podcast where we talk about our experiences with grief. There might be tears or there might be laughter, but join us as we figure it out in real time.
We aren't professionals, we're just professional grievers. This podcast is for those dealing with grief, those who want support, those dealing with grief, and those who just want to learn. In this episode, we talk about everything about psychic mediums and the metaphysical. For any potential triggers, please check the episode show notes prior to listening.
So as we start every episode, Rachel, what are your credentials for talking about psychic mediums and the metaphysical?
So I'm actually pretty excited about this episode because I have been to a psychic medium, I think 3, maybe 4 times.
Wow.
And I actually had a positive experience about it. I'll talk more about it in the episode, but I have been 3 times. I've also seen ghosts and things. I feel like I've seen some things. So what about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I'm not quite as experienced in this, but I am excited. I've always been super into ghosts and kind of like creepier things and a little bit more of the morbidity part of the stuff. So I've had more experiences with dreams and other people's experiences with the metaphysical and me relating to that. But I would say personally for me, I have not seen a ghost in person, but not yet. There's always time.
There's always time. Or maybe you have and you just didn't realize
Didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't know. So this episode, I would say it possibly might be a little less heavy. We wanted to kind of talk about a little lighter topic, but I feel like also I may cry talking about my psychic medium experience. So
sure.
We'll see, TBD on if it actually is a little bit lighter, but I think because it's kind of that otherworldly mystical thing, It feels a little less heavy, at least on paper, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's a nice mix that we're kind of throwing this one in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we talk about this stuff, I think people immediately go into the spooky and the creepy. But I think what's often left out of that conversation is where people find closure and healing in those conversations and those experiences. So do you want to share your experience? We could dive into that.
Yeah. So actually there's someone, I think it's like the Long Island medium or something. So I've watched her show a bunch, and I might have even watched her show before anyone passed away. But I still was like very skeptical because you always just hear just scammers and
right.
It's also like a very sensitive thing that you could like speak to the other side. So I've always been skeptical, but also I've always wanted it to be true at the same time. I've said I've seen experience like ghosts and things. So I've always wanted it to be true, but I was very skeptical. And also like at the time I went, I had already lost everyone. I've lost everyone. And so my brother actually went first, and then I think it was for like a Christmas gift, he actually booked me a session with this guy. But when he did, like, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know like what research my brother did. I didn't know anything like that, and I was bugging the crap out of him to be like, because he had a really good session, so he booked one for me.
Yeah.
But I was like, why did you believe him? Like, what did he say? Like, give me an example of something that he said. I was very much like, tell me, like, I need a proof of something that will make me believe him. Like, what made you believe him? Like, I need to go into this feeling like it is true. And I was so skeptical. I was like, I don't know about this. And my brother just kept saying like, it was good. Don't worry about it. Just go. I can't remember like anything specific. And I'm like, well, that doesn't help me like feel comfortable. And you're like, I don't remember. And I'm like, okay, well, that sucks. But I was so skeptical also because it's like, it's very sensitive. So I wasn't, I didn't really want to also have hope of it being good in a way, because like, what if you're let down? But as soon as I like knocked on the door and the guy opened the door, I immediately felt like goosebumps. Like the hair on my arms and like my neck were like standing up. Like I immediately felt a shift in just the environment as soon as I walked in. So I was like, as soon as I'm like, I feel like this is real from just my like body response to being in here. And so I immediately like I was like, okay, I think this is real. I'm gonna be more open-minded. Just like kind of had that feeling. And he literally, when I sat down, he does some like birthday stuff or whatever. Like he asked your birthday and a few things. But he immediately kind of busted out stuff that like no one would know. My brother didn't know. It's not on social media. I don't know, like there's still people to this day that like know me that probably don't know my mom passed away, because by the time it got to my mom, I just like
You're
I'm not
done.
posting other yeah, like I don't want to post anywhere. I don't want to do anything. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that still don't know my mom's passed away because I just like haven't talked about it publicly. So there was
Yeah.
nowhere for him to find, there's nowhere to like Google it. And he couldn't have like asked my brother about it either to like say anything, you know? So he couldn't like, there was just no way that he could know this information. It was the first time for anything. And he had talked about, because basically the last time I saw my mom, she's in the Philippines, so she went back there and she was already sick. Like she really was not doing well. She looked really sick, did not look great. So I was there for a few weeks and I was just helping her, you know, like taking care of her, you know, helping her do everything because she was you know, just not good. Like she just was not in a good space. And so
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave, but I was interviewing for a job and my mom wanted me to go. And I was like, I don't want to leave, you know, but it was really hard to like complete the interview away. And then I had to like go for the in person. And I really didn't want to go, but she just kept pushing me like, you need to go. And I think she didn't want me to like go through like seeing her and, you know, pass away and all
Yeah.
that stuff. But so she didn't want me there anymore. For that, because she also tried to protect us from like finding out for a while too. And so it was just one of the things like I felt like it was the last time I was going to see her, and it was. And so there was just like weird feelings with that, right? Like, oh, you
Yeah.
left and whatever. And he basically said all of that, and like he said that my mom wanted me to go, she didn't want me to go through that, and that she's happy that I left and all this stuff. And like he just kind of like went hard on all of that and just said like, you know, it's what my mom wanted. She wanted me to be okay. She didn't want me to like take on more than I already had with like my dad and my sister. So it was just like, I just remember like it was like instant tears. Like, because there's like stuff that like, there's no way that he would have known that or like he could have
Yeah.
found out. And I just remember like, oh my God, like I was like, okay, he's real. Is no, and it's like, it was like the instant thing I feel like I also needed to hear, you know, because it's like,
Yeah.
didn't really get to talk to her at the end. So it's like, it was like a big sigh of relief, but also like really, it's like weird but interesting feeling of like really getting a message from your mom from the other side and kind of like the message that you needed. But because like there literally was no way for him to know that information, I was like, oh shit. And he like the details were just too spot on that it's like, unless my mom was actually there, like there's no other person that could know it. So it was I went like 2 more times and I got like a lot of messages from my sister, and he told me stuff like my sister's around frequently, and he told me
Aw.
that I could, she likes reading, so like you can write notes to her. So after he told me that, I made personalized journals for her best friends and her ex-boyfriend.
Aw.
And I think maybe for my brother and my cousin too, because he said that like she likes it when you write to her. So I like made these like personal journals for them and I gave them to everybody. And so I'm hoping that people have been running it into them, and my sister is enjoying reading it. So it's been an interesting experience, but I definitely recommend, if you have any kind of lingering things, to find a good one, find a real one. Because
Yeah.
it wasn't cheap either, but it's definitely worth it when you feel like you do need some kind of closure on things. It definitely was worth it to me. So they check out, but also be very, very careful. Like be very, you know, do your due diligence, you know, research people, do all of that before you commit to anyone. But it definitely was a very interesting experience. And I honestly did feel like that kind of, there are spirits around. Like it just was kind of an interesting feeling on there. But yeah, it definitely I would recommend it for people just to try it, just to test the waters.
Yeah. And I think like you bring in a great point of like when you don't have closure for loss, and it's like that could really hinder you in a lot of different aspects of your life if you don't have that closure in some form. I think that's why I've never felt prompted to go in and seek out a medium with my own experience with my dad, just in regard to I had a long time with him prior to his passing to kind of say all the things I wanted to say. I felt like I had closure, and I do acknowledge like a lot of people don't have that opportunity the way I did, and I'm very blessed in that regard. But it does make me curious to think like what would he say now? Like, because I'm always curious, like, am I doing the right thing for myself? Am I doing the right thing for my brother and sister? Would he be proud of the amount of like progress I've made in the past 4 years? But like I am so curious. And like even just your story alone, like you have me sold. It's like I would try that experience.
I definitely recommend it. I mean, maybe one time you have to book it like way in advance, but maybe we could even book one session with him together in the future and just go and just see what happens. I mean, it's interesting because even stuff with my sister, he basically says my sister's like very, very active, like very, she's someone that like she's kind of sticking around. She likes being with everybody in like the sense that she can. And he's explained it the same way that I've read it in some books of like time moves differently for them. So it's like she's not sad, she's not, newer place. It's like she's still around, and time is just in a different, wherever it is, it's like it's different. It doesn't feel like a long time that she's away.
Yeah.
Which I think is also nice to think about, that like even though they're gone and don't know where they are, like they're still somewhere around us and watching and involved in some ways. So I'm glad to like, I was gonna say, so I'm glad to know that you consider it. We should try it one time and see
for sure.
the outcome.
Yeah. Have you ever watched the Haunting of Hill House series?
Is that the one that's really spooky that was on Netflix?
Yeah, it is. It is like intentionally
like
a scary show. Yes.
Yes, I have watched that one, and it does. That was a really good show, but like the neck breaking.
Yeah, no, that's traumatizing.
That does things to me. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that has stuck with me in a weird way ever since. But I watched that series, I think, literally like, I don't know, a week or two after my dad passed.
Oh wow, you went there.
Oh yeah, I really leaned into it. In fact, I leaned into the grief in a lot of weird ways.
You went dark.
Well, I love scary movies. I have two friends who also love scary movies, so that's like our thing, is we like to watch scary things. And so my best friend loves the series. Anybody she can convince to watch it, she'll sit down, watch the 10-hour series all over again with that person because she just loves it that much. I don't think she loves the series, and she knew it was kind of like, obviously there's a lot of death in it, like, but each of the siblings represents a stage of grief and how they're responding to the loss of I think their mother after this whole situation. But at the very end, like, it's a quote that has stuck with me because truly the message towards the end of the show is really sweet on how does a family come together after monumental loss like this. I think like the quote is like, time is like confetti, and that has always stuck with me in like a really sweet way, in that it's all these happy moments that are happening, and it's not linear in the way that like you and I are processing life day to day, day in and day out. But like for spirits, it's happening in like confetti falling from the sky. And I was like, oh my God, that's like so beautiful. I don't know if that's true or anything. I'm gonna admit I'm not a psychic medium or anything. I don't claim to be, but I like that thought of like just happy memories like floating around and like coming in and out of like life in that sense.
I'll admit that I don't remember any happy ending from that show. Like, maybe I was so speaked out, but
Everybody.
I did not walk away with a positive message from that show. I don't remember that at all.
I found it oddly healing. Like, I agree, it's very dark, and there's a lot of death. Like, it's a whole show focused around death.
Yeah.
But the ending, I was like, all the children now that they're like grown up,
Yeah.
they kind of had this new appreciation for like the trauma their family experienced and how are they going to move through that together rather than before they were all separated. And there was a lot of like issues, but then at the end, like, yes, there is even more death, but like
More
for the siblings, yes. And then, like, I don't know, there's just some little sweet moments in the show where I'm just like, it was really, it's leaning into the dark, which that's a whole nother episode, is like, does leaning into the dark help or does it harm? I don't know, but for myself, I found it really helpful in a weird way. Like, another thing, Frozen 2 also had me talk about leaning into the dark. Like, when Anna loses her sister, I'm weeping, and for some reason it was healing to my grief.
Wow, I like have watched both of those things. I feel like I need to rewatch them because I don't remember like those. I don't even remember the sisters separating in that movie.
When what's the Elsa, the ice princess one, she like goes into the unknown, and Anna gets a sign.
Family.
Yeah, well, and then Anna's like gets a sign, or like things start melting, and so she's like, she must have died in the unknown, and like she sings a song like one step forward at a time, and that song has carried me through my grief in a weird way.
I feel like I need to maybe, I don't know if I blacked out from that part because I have lost my sister. I don't know.
Sure. I can maybe the movie would be so hard to watch at your shoes.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's funny because I also watched The Haunting, and I don't remember the positive. I don't remember ending on like positive notes
either. You're definitely leaning into a lot of the bad before you get to the good.
I think I need to rewatch these things because I don't have any memory of those events. I do remember them separating, but I don't even remember that song. And I mean, I probably watched it. It probably made me cry. I don't know. I don't even remember it. I just blacked out.
Yeah, probably for very good reason. Like any sane person would.
Yeah, it's one of those things like Grey's Anatomy. I used to love Grey's Anatomy more so before they killed off Derek. And I still watch it every so often. And I still watch, like, I think it's like Chicago Med sometimes. And sometimes I watch these shows and I'm like, why am I watching these shows? You know, because it's sometimes you'll be watching and like all of a sudden something feels familiar and you're like,
yeah,
why am I watching this? It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, is it okay? I don't know. But then at the same time, I don't also want to be someone that is triggered by all these sort of things, or that like it prevents me from doing things that I enjoy, which includes watching medical shows. Even though I spent a ton of time in the hospitals watching my family pass away or just do hospital visits and medical issues. I feel like it's one thing where I kind of had to challenge myself, like, it's okay, you can still enjoy these shows even if there's too much closeness sometimes. I don't want that to be taken away from me, so I still do watch them pretty frequently, although I do feel differently about Grey's Anatomy now that like all of my favorite people are gone anyway. But that's not really medical, just
that's for a separate podcast.
The romance part, that's separate.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up about hospitals, because the last time I had I had my appendix taken out in 2023, like New Year's Day.
Oh, wow.
New Year's night, 2023. It was like New Year's Eve. It was so weird. The last time I had been in a hospital before that was like, my dad's stuff. And it was weird to go into the hospital for like me and my problem, and then hearing like the beeps from the machine.
I don't like those beeps. Yeah.
I don't like those beeps either, but it was like crazy that those beeps on the machine, like it was like PTSD. I was like, oh my gosh, I just remember them beeping all night long, and you can't like scrub that from your brain.
No, I mean, I feel like the worst of it was when my sister she was in a coma for, I think it was like 10 or 11 days. And we rotated like sleeping in the hospital with her. The only thing we slept on were like 2 chairs so like pushed together. So you weren't sleeping also because they like come in all the time. So all you hear was like beeping, people coming in and out. And so yeah, all the like the noises, you're just like, it's not a comfortable place to be. Just not a fan of hospitals in general.
Talk about another place where time doesn't like really exist anymore.
Yeah. There's not enough windows in there for sure.
No. You're like, is it morning or is it night? I don't like, it's just fluorescence all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it took until I think my sister got transferred to like a physical therapy unit because she had to like a rehabilitation unit, and I think it's the first time she had like a window. That was like that was like 3 months in or something. Like, it was crazy. It was like, oh, we finally get like sunshine and a nice space. So yeah, it really does make you feel like you're in the twilight zone of just repeat hospital. Yeah, and like the days go by. Didn't see any ghosts there though, which is another thing we wanted to talk about. Was, have you ever seen any ghosts or spirit? Like, you said you haven't seen any of your family or ghosts, right?
No, none of my family in particular. And let me tell you, I am someone who is like wanting that to happen, to say in a weird way. Like, I think it'll be jarring if I had that confrontation, but I'm someone who's not like trying to negate that experience. But no, I have not seen any family members yet. I have though. I'll have some strange experiences, and I don't know if this is like ghostly or like doppelganger type, but I'll see people that like look like my dad in random places. Like, I remember I was getting off a flight. I'm inside the airplane, and like there's a man a couple people ahead of me, and I could have sworn to you, I was like, that's my dad. And like I just kept staring at him being like, is my dad alive still? Did he like start a new life somewhere? Like, it was just so surreal. The more I was like piercing into this man, the more I realized, oh, that's not really my dad. Like, there's not the same demeanors, but he looked so damn close to him. It was so odd.
That's crazy. I wonder if there is like a ghostly thing, or somehow your dad is like kind of masking or something.
Yeah,
we'll never know until you go to the psychic medium.
Right.
We'll never know.
Rachel needs commission for selling psychic mediums on our podcast.
I know. I should. Had thoughts, psychic mediums. Please sponsor us, and we'll push you out to the audience. Yeah. Just kidding. I definitely think you should do your work. Do your diligence. Yeah. Don't just sign up for anybody. But I actually have seen ghosts. I actually saw ghosts growing up that weren't family. Like, growing up, and I remember even like one of my houses growing up, like I remember the door would open and I would be so scared that I slept with like my parents growing up, like when I was young, and like I just remember this lady with like an apron came into the room and like she's floating, and I just remember seeing ghosts. Like, it wasn't any family member. I don't know like the reasoning for that, but I actually also saw another house we moved into where there was like more ghost activity. I actually saw my grandma, like my parents, I used to like take baths in their like master bathroom, and then there was a closet and the door was open, and I swear I saw like my grandma in the closet, like her face in the closet. And I told my mom because I freaked out and ran out of the bathroom, and then my mom went into the closet and she found my grandma's fur jacket that she had been looking for in the closet, and she had been looking for it like crazy and couldn't find it. And then after I told her that I saw her in the closet, she found it. So like, I don't know if that's related or not, but definitely saw some spookiness there. But I never talked to her or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I just saw her. I also saw a nun walking down our hallway in that same house.
Okay, which was crazy. What was your house?
I honestly think it was like, it was up in the hills of San Jose. I feel like there might have been like missionary, I don't know, like something something like that.
Yeah, I'm like, did you
because
live in an old church?
maybe it was definitely, that house is definitely spooky. And
Ooh.
when we were moving out, I remember I just saw someone, like a black figure walking down the hallway, and in my head it had to be my sister because she was wearing a black jacket, and we were like moving out, so there's no one in the house. So I remember I ran down the hallway and I was calling her. I was like, Lori, Lori, and like no response. And they turned into the bathroom, and so I ran to the bathroom and there was no one there, and I immediately
Gasp.
like screamed, and I was like, Lori. And she opened the backyard door and was like, what? She's like, what? And I was like, oh my God. It was just weird timing. But then when I like thought about like what I actually saw, it looked like a nun just walking down the hallway.
Weird.
It was very clear and very spooky. But on family notes, I wish that I have had more like ghost appearances or
Mhm.
something. I mean, when my grandma died, the same one I saw in the closet, the night she passed away, I don't know if I told you, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but my uncle, like in his dreams, they danced.
Oh,
Like they slow
yes.
danced. And I think they talked, and like I just remember that was like kind of the standard that I set of what would happen if any family members passed away, that like they'd visit me the night they passed away and we would have a
Mhm.
conversation. Like that's what
Yeah.
or like have a moment. And that's what I expected, and that never happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
The dream aspect is totally I hear more about the dreams that people have than maybe their, like, waking day experiences, because I was, like, the same way. I thought like, I hope these aren't secrets, but, like, my aunt had told me when after my father had passed, so his sister, she said that when their father had passed, that she had dreams every night for a year, and she would just sit on a bench and talk to her dad in her dreams, and I was like,
Oh wow.
"Oh, I know," and I was, like, expecting that to happen to me. Did not happen to
Yeah.
me. My uncle, my dad's brother, said he didn't have any dreams of his dad until I think around the time or, like, maybe he did have dreams of his dad, but it was like his dad's back was always towards him, and he couldn't catch up to his dad, and then I think sometime around 9/11, just with all the stress and, like, the emotional state of, like, the country and everybody was in, he said that's finally when his dad turned towards him, and he's like, "I have not had a dream of my dad ever since," but he was like, it felt like my uncle had finally like got over this hump of forgiveness towards his dad. Probably that's what he thinks, and that was something around the emotional state of that time period. Like something was resolved there, and I haven't had like too many dreams of like my own dad. Usually, it's kind of like normal doing whatever, and then my dad just might be there. But I haven't had like dreams where he's like, I miss you or I'm proud of you. Like nothing where I feel like it's in direct conversation with me, like a sign or anything. I do have like, I call them like more of an anxiety dream, but just like around death itself. And I think like the very first time I had a dream with my dad, and it was very much like my own fear around death. And so I sometimes get those, but I don't think it's necessarily like my father connecting with me per se through dreams. It's more of like me in my mind trying to comprehend death and kind of that huge ambiguous topic that happens to humans, but that's like the extent of dream
The
world
dream.
for me and my family.
I feel like I don't feel like I've had many dreams with my dad for whatever reason. I don't know. And I don't think I asked the psychic medium. My sister definitely has been more active in my dreams.
Aw, I love that.
My mom still, she's been she's kind of like the dreams I've had, she's like there, but she doesn't talk. I feel like
Yeah.
the psychic medium said that it was because I was mad at her. Like she wasn't ready to talk to me, and maybe she felt bad too for like she wasn't ready to speak to me. So I don't think I've still had a dream where she's really talked to me much. She just like, it was always like my sister's talking to me and she's there, not speaking to me. Ironically, maybe not even ironically, the first thing that she had said to me in a dream that I remember for her telling me like, you need to work out and like lose weight, which was like
classic mom.
yeah. And it was so funny because yes, I think it was like the wake up call. I kind of like, I didn't think about it. I mean, it's like, I don't know if I've said it already, but like, I definitely ate my feelings, especially when my sister passed away. With my sister and mom, I definitely gained a good amount of weight through them both passing because it's just like, it's easy to reward yourself with a brownie or Hazuki or whatever the heck when you're like, okay,
you're depressed.
Yeah, you're like, I need to eat something. Like, of course, I deserve whatever the hell I want with food. So don't do that. And so it was just funny because also the last time I saw her in person in real life, like I think I had gained a good amount of weight from like seeing my sister passing away and then like her being sick, like, you know, just eating
just
my
all
feelings.
That stress.
And she actually, that was something that like she was not doing well at all, like barely even talking to me when I saw her. And she still told me at the time, like, oh, this is the biggest I've ever, like, she told me, like, you need to, like, make, like, check yourself, like, get back in shape, like, take care of yourself. And it's just funny because that's so, like, my mom, and if you have, like, Filipino moms, and she actually was not, like, she was not, like, someone that's, like, that was, like, super hypercritical, but I think, you know, it's, like, when you did need a check, she would say something, and definitely wouldn't check. But I was definitely not able to recuperate that. Like, after she passed away, it definitely took time for me to even get back into like working out and being healthy and bounce back into that mentality. But yeah, it's funny that like that's what she said to me. But I'm like, that is very much my mom. Like she would find a way that the first thing she says to me in a dream is that like wow, thanks mom. But it's like I'm like, it feels like she's still here. She can still say that. But I feel like
I know that's my mom. That's exactly what she's saying.
I know that's my mom. But my sister, I feel like I've had a lot of dreams where we just like hang out and kind of do sisterly things. I have been times where like I feel like when I've missed her a ton. I remember like there's been a few times where like she's hugged me and I kind of like wake up feeling that hug.
Yeah.
And then I just remember like crying because it's like as soon as I woke up, it's like because I could like feel the hug still when I woke up.
Yeah, like it's real.
Yeah, yeah. And so it is one of those times like I mean it like ebbs and flows, but it's like I always miss her, but there's sometimes it just feels worse. And definitely one of those where it's like okay, I could feel the hug, and so I feel like she really shows up in her ghostly form or whatever. So I do feel like she's listening because I know like it's like I'm really sad. Like she's somehow there.
Yeah.
But so she's definitely the most active, I'd say, for that. But yeah, for some reason my dad hasn't really been in any dreams, and my mom, yeah, that's the only thing she said to me. But I would love to have like conversations with them in my dreams that I know some people can, like your aunt, like my friend. Actually, one of my friends, I don't know if I mentioned this before on the podcast, but one of my friends, we went to high school together. We weren't friends. Like, we weren't, like, not friends, but we just, like, weren't in the same group. Like, I don't remember ever speaking to her, really. I don't, like, have any memories of her, but she also lived in San Francisco, like, after college. And so I just, like, we had followed each other on Instagram. So I just messaged her, like, do you want to grab a drink? You know, like, looking to find more friends in San Francisco. And we ended up just, like, getting along really well. And, like, we're still really good friends now. As soon as we started becoming good friends, my sister started visiting her in her dreams and kind of sending her messages because she's a lot more sensitive to that. And so it's like interesting because my sister will visit her and like she'll kind of send me messages through her because she can actually like talk to her in her dreams. And even when I like went this year, I went to go visit her for an early birthday trip for me. I went to go visit her because she moved to North Carolina, and my sister visited her around that time too. So it's like whenever I'm around her, my sister knows and she'll like go visit her and like send her a message. So it's very interesting because it really only happens like when we're hanging out or gonna see each other.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I wish I had more of that, like attunement to that other side. And I'm sure it's also weird. I'm sure people who actually have that sensitivity, they're like, no, I hate it, it's actually crazy. But I don't know, I would be like I'm so curious about it too, about like, so I have so many questions, and I that's like a
Yeah.
whole nother conversation of like, how do we interpret life after death type of thing. But yeah, that's so fascinating.
Yeah, I always think about that, and it's just crazy how active my sister is with that. And the only thing
Yeah.
is my dad. My dad used to always joke that like when he passed away, he'd like pull our toes
Uh-huh.
in our sleep, and so like I will not sleep with my toes outside of my blanket, no
Yeah.
matter how hot it is. And
I get that it's alarming.
even if I stick like my leg out, like you know, like sometimes you like I don't know if you ever do like the one leg in, one leg out
Yeah.
for like when you're hot. I will still shove my foot back under something. Like I will never have my toes out. Because and I don't know that my dad's ever actually done that to me, but I always think of it and I will hide my toes. Like my toes will
Yeah.
not be out when I'm sleeping. And he's passed away
Yeah.
10 years and my toes have
There's
not been
been
out
no
since.
toe pulling since, huh?
Nope. No toes out. Like he's been gone and toes are in. Like I will not pull those out. I don't know if he's actually gonna do it. I don't know if he has enough spirity power. I don't know how that works, but my
What's your
toes,
spirity strength
yeah,
to
I don't
pull it
know,
out?
but my toes are inside. I will not take that risk. So,
No,
but
I totally get that.
yeah, so I don't know. So beyond, we talked about actually seeing them in dreams, but do you believe in signs from them, or do you actually see any signs? Like, have you experienced any signs from them?
Yeah, I don't know. I bet some of this is me wanting to see, kind of like see my father in things, but really right after, and probably that first year after, I felt like I saw him, or like his like energy, or like letters on signs, or like names of things. I'd be like, that's a little too coincidental. And it's probably just like, if I'm trying to be logical, like my own projection into it. But also, it's like, I never noticed like this thing that I've seen every day on my drive to work, and then now it's changed, and it's something eerily close to like something with my dad. So like, I find it comforting, and like a reminder for whatever reason to acknowledge those signs, just for like my own sake, being like, and I also have like my own personal like kind of view on things. There's like a little thing of like, there's all this interconnectedness with the world, and so kind of like ripple effects of people's lives and energies. I wonder if it just kind of like trickles and bounces into other parts of the world and other people's lives. Um so like, I remember probably a couple years after my dad died, I went into a bookstore, and there was this little older man. He wasn't little, he was very tall. He looked like my dad, but he was like British. And for some reason, that was just like really assuring to me that I could come to this bookstore, and here's this little bookstore guy who looked like my dad, even with a British accent. And it made me feel safe, and like, there was something about that was really comforting for me. What about you? What do you think about signs?
I definitely I feel like I see the most through like numbers. Like something I see a
Okay.
lot is like 17. My sister's birthday is March 17th. So I do see 317 a lot, like when I look at the
Mhm.
clock, or even like sometimes like my emails, like there'll be 17. Like I see 17 or 317 a lot. So I do, and sometimes I feel like when I'm thinking something, like it's almost like a confirmation. Like even right now when we were talking about a story, when I just like looked at the clock and it said 317, like
Yeah.
when I just looked. So I see that as a sign for my sister. I also do see the clock at like 11:11 on, and they do say that's like the angel sign, kind of like
Mhm.
people, like angels are thinking of you. I also see like 225 or 25 a lot, which is my birthday, which I feel like is also them kind of a confirmation of like those numbers, because I see them so frequently when I like feel the need to look at a clock. I do see
Yeah.
those numbers really often, and so I just like don't think that's random, because I also feel like sometimes like it's usually also when I'm like always thinking about something, or like a thought crosses my mind. I feel like it's almost like confirmation support. of
Yeah.
ideas and stuff, because they were those people for me. So I kind of always take it as that, like, because it's like happens so frequently that I'm like, I don't know, I just like I can't take it as like not anything. Like I do see it pretty frequently. Other times that I've seen it, started getting really into traveling and practice and like always researching where to go and like food and like being very the planner because of my sister. That's how my sister was. Like when I'd visit her in New York, she would like we would eat at like 10 places in a day. Like she had a plan for everything, and it really made me appreciate.
She would have loved the bear.
Yeah, I always hear that. She probably would have really loved the bear. But that, and it's funny because what's that guy's name? He was a chef that turned into like a travel Bourdain, Anthony Bourdain.
Oh yeah, Anthony Bourdain.
So she loved Anthony Bourdain. She like went to go see him, and I was in Mexico City, and because now I do love traveling, I do love like, you know, planning, and one thing I was like doing is going to bookstores when I travel. And
me too, girl.
So I was traveling and we were at a bookstore, and something caught my eye. It was an Anthony Bourdain book, but it was like I think someone writing it for him like after he passed away already. And the author's name was Lori, and it was spelled like my sister's name. And so I also took that as a sign, like, because I saw it and I'm like, it's just like a random sign for my sister. And I did buy the book, not then because I didn't have room in my suitcase, but I did buy it later on. But it was just like a kind of like, I felt like it was a sign for my sister. Like it was randomly a book that caught my eye.
Yeah.
And the author had her name, and I was like, oh, that's like a nice thing. So both there's like signs and stuff. I feel like another one that felt significant was after my sister's celebration of life, a bunch of her friends and stuff were in town, so we went to their like Airbnb, I think, or wherever they're staying, and we were just talking until like, you know, sharing stories with my sister until like 3 or so a.m., like pretty late. And the one song that I really kind of clung to when my sister passed away was the Ed Sheeran song Our Love, like I think it's called like Photograph, or like the line is like our love is in a photograph. And it just like that line really stuck with me because it's like all I had now was like photographs of her and, you know, memories. And for her celebration of life, we went through so many photos and stuff. So that kind of was like the song that stuck to me. And it was like 3:30 a.m. and like as soon as me and my brother sat in the car, he turned on the car. And we had sat in the car for like a few minutes too, because kind of just like decompressing, you know, it was just a celebration of life. It was just, it was a lot. And as soon as my brother started the car, the song that was playing was, you know, Our Love is in a Photograph, the Ed Sheeran song. And so I feel like my sister is pretty strong with her signs and kind of being around, which is very much confirmed also by like the psychic medium is, you know, he's like, she's always around. She likes being very active in our lives. So I think there are so many signs. I do want, sounds great, like I do want more signs. I feel like I always see people like saying, you know, oh, my loved one sent me this person, or like they sent me my husband or something, and like I would like to feel that confirmation also because it's like they'll never meet who I end up marrying, you know?
Yeah.
But I also don't know, like, how do you know that's a sign from them? How do you know that they're sending them to you? So I like to think that they sent me Jameson. So, because he's the best.
Jameson is our executive producer for the podcast.
Yes, Jameson Dwyer. He's very official. I would like to think that they sent me him. And here for everyone.
A guest appearance.
Oh God.
For those listening at home,
you can't.
We have a giant labradoodle, golden doodle on screen.
Yes. So if you're not, he's the executive producer and he's the love of my life.
He has the sweetest puppy dog eyes I've ever seen.
I didn't just no water, so I'm just
our studio is wrecked.
But I do like to think that they sent him to me because he is the perfect, very sweet, loving boy. So, but yeah, I don't know other signs. Like I don't know if I need to be more open to them or be. I saw people say like they ask for a very specific sign. I'm always scared to ask for that though.
Yeah, see, that's the thing with me too. Is like I'm really open to it, and I would love it for it to happen, but I'm also like, am I ready? am I ready to receive that? Am I gonna freak out? Because I don't want to be like, yeah, I can handle it, and then actually
Yeah.
be like, I'm freaked out.
Yeah, so I don't know, like, what to ask for as a sign or,
Mhm.
like yeah, I don't know what kind of confirmation I need, but, yeah, one day I will feel bold enough to do that because I know people do that. I always see people post about, "I asked for if this is the right thing, like, show me this," or whatever, and I know people also do that, like, when they're praying, but, I think of it more, like, in spirits right now, but,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a little hesitant to ask for that, but maybe one day I feel bold enough to take that leap to do that, but it's a little scary. I
Yeah.
don't wanna be let down either, but I don't know if I'm just not paying attention sometimes for all
Sure,
the
yeah.
signs that it could be, but it is crazy, and it just I think you never think so much about ghosts and signs until you have people pass away, and
Yeah.
you just want to be connected to them in any which way,
Mhm.
um but the guy I think I mentioned he did say writing, so if anyone is listening and wants to connect or feels connected to them, maybe try writing to them in a journal, like writing to them like they're here, or you really need
I
to talk
love
to them.
that.
I would try that.
Yeah.
Also, I sometimes just talk to them out loud. Like sometimes you just need to like say it out loud. So I do
Mhm.
that as well. Do you ever talk to your dad? Like try to talk to him in a way?
Yeah, I feel like it's on, car rides. I don't know why being in the car, all of a
Car
sudden
rides
I'm
do that
much
to me
more
too.
emotional. Like,
Road
for the
trips.
while there, yeah, it was like the only time I would cry about this would when I would get into my car, and I don't know if there's something about, like, coming away from some other event and then getting in your car and you're kinda, like, decompressing, you're like, "Oof, that's a lot," but, uh, yeah, and, like, same thing, I haven't, like, had this realism or epiphany or anything, but, like, I'm so open to it, and I think, like, also I'm scared to hear what he might say, be like, "Oh, you're really messing up everything." Like, I'm sure that my dad was
Yeah.
not like that at all, but other than anything, the only thing I wanna hear, like, so badly is just like, "I'm proud of you, you've done a good job. Like, I know it's been hard, but you did everything you could," type of thing. Um, Sometimes I have, like since I was my dad's power of attorney and his medical person, and I had to like deal with a lot of the, as you and I call it, like the logistical grief. Um, I do like wonder, like, did I make the right choice? Like, should I have actually gone through with having that procedure, or should I have not agreed to that procedure? Like, there was just so much. And I remember something, I mean, this is actually, it was really sad at the time, but I am happy this was advised to me because if you had asked me before the situation, I would have had a very different answer. Um, but my dad was also in a coma for a period of time in his hospital stint. And one of the doctors in the hospital called me one night and he's like, I think at this point, he just needs to be put out of his misery. It's kind of
No.
selfish that um, you're not gonna allow him to have a peaceful death and kind of
Oh, wow.
it was pretty abrasive and it stunned me. I was like, am I not looking for like I thought I was. I thought I was supposed to be making the best decisions for my dad. I obviously want to keep him alive. Like I put so
Are
much
they
effort
supposed
and
to be
time and
saying that?
money.
I feel like they're not supposed to be saying that.
Probably not, but it was definitely like his advice of like he's not going to get any better. So you need to pull the plug on this. I don't know. I don't think he was technically on like life support, but he was on a ventilator. And I wonder if it was because this was also during COVID and ventilators were like a high demand. And I wonder
Oh,
if he was
yeah.
like, this is a
Tr
waste of resources on your dad that could be given to someone who actually needs it type of thing. And I don't
and
know.
that's
That's just
sad. I
speculation.
mean,
Yeah.
they were in crazy
Yeah.
need, so
It was a crazy time. I agree. Like it
yeah.
was very unusual, unorthodox situation. So like that is when I think about it, that's the context I'm thinking of. Could it be something else? Absolutely, I'm not sure. But I remember thinking like, do I? Like Like, is that the best choice for my father in the long run, is pulling that plug? And I remember thinking, like, I just wish he could tell me what he wants. Like, is it more peaceful for him? Because he had always said in the past that, like, he had signed a DNR. He said, like, if he was ever in that position, he wouldn't want to stay alive anymore. But then he would still have these moments of clarity and cognizant, and I couldn't just let it go, knowing there was still a little bit of, like, mental activity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I called my uncle and was like, this is what the doctor told me, and I'm not sure what to do. And I was obviously distraught, because that's just not news anybody wants to hear. And my uncle's like, no, we're going to hold out on having hope on this to the very end. He's like, we are going to hope for the best until the very end. And he's like, I'm glad he told me that, because I think now, if I had made that decision to, like, pull the plug, I think I would have harbored a lot of guilt about that. And I am glad that I tried I exhausted everything I could to ensure that possibly my dad would stay alive. And at the end, he didn't. But now I know I did everything I absolutely could, kind of thing. And not that has anything to do with, like, signs or metaphysical or ghosts, but it was kind of one of those things, like, I think that moment, if I made a very different decision, would have haunted me today. Not saying that my dad would have haunted me, but, like, my own
decision.
Guilt and my own decision would have haunted me for the rest of my life if I did decide it, even if it's the more, I don't know, more ethical or humane way to go. Like, I don't judge anybody for making a very different decision. It's very personal, obviously.
Yeah. It's very hard. Like, you don't.
Yeah.
It's very touch and go. I mean, I would say, like, even for the doctors when my sister was in the coma, like, they were like, oh, she's probably not going to wake up. Like,
yeah.
They were very negative about her waking up. Or, like, and so they weren't giving, I don't know if it's like they were trying to make it realistic or, like, you know, whatever. And it wasn't 2020, so it wasn't like that was a reason where or for resources. They just, like, were very pessimistic, and, like, basically telling us, like, they didn't think she was gonna wake up, and she did. And, you know, we got her for, like, 2 more years. And so I think you do have to just trust your gut. And, like, you know, sometimes they're not looking out for you, unfortunately. And had we done something and shortened her life at all, like, I'll freaking haunt the doctors. Like, I'll come back and, you know, I'll freaking do it as a freaking living person, you know? So I think it's, you don't want that. You don't want to, I think, you don't even want to have that lingering, or, like, I don't think you want to have to go to, like, a second medium to get those answers because you feel like you did it. I think going to something like a second medium is just kind of nice to, like, know that there's a way that they can still communicate to you, or, like, maybe even reaffirm, like, they're around in some way. I think that's kind of a nice way to do it. I don't think you could put all of your cards in, you know, like, you can't expect that, like, you're gonna get this. You can't expect that it's gonna go the exact way that you want it to go, because it is spirits. It is a weird thing, you know? So I think you can't expect that it's gonna give you exactly what you need. But I think it is, like, it's a nice outlet, something to try. But yeah, definitely, I mean, in those situations, like, it definitely makes it harder where you feel like you need to get answers if you, like, had made the decision to, like, unplug your dad first because the doctor was pushing for that.
Yeah, and I think if it was a different decision, I probably would have gone to a psychic medium a lot sooner, being like, did I make the right choice? Are you mad at me? Do you forgive me, type of thing? Like, I would be in a different headspace for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, thank goodness you had your uncle and kind of like a sounding board to try everything. Because you never know. There's so much technology and science, so it's like, at the end of the day, a lot of it, I don't know if it's luck, if it's whatever, I don't know. It's a lot of randomness. You just don't really know how things work out, how they do. But yeah, I mean, had I listened to, like, I'd be haunting him to this day as a living, like, and, like, you know, because it's like, you don't know what would happen. And So it's crazy. Yeah, don't always listen. They also, I mean, a story that like is way early on is my mom had when my mom was pregnant with my sister, they told my sister that she was mentally disabled and that they at that time, I don't know if that was like what they recommended that she abort my sister. Like I don't know if that was the protocol before, but they recommended she abort my sister and my mom was like, no, like, you know, however she comes out, I'm gonna love her. I think that my sister had like, you know, nothing was wrong. Like she didn't have any mental disabilities. So it's just crazy because it's like we've been tested with that multiple times and
Yeah.
she pushed through. So at least then, not at the end, but
Yeah.
at least multiple times where she proved them wrong. So not that that was the focus of our episode, but you know, go with your gut, guys. With everything,
Yeah,
even
go with your gut.
with your signs and your dreams and everything. I guess always trust yourself is the end note, I
Yeah.
guess, of what we're going. It all focuses back to be open, but trust yourself and verify things.
Yeah, I think, yeah, same thing. My dad ended up coming out of the coma. So that was another thing of like, thank God I did not
Oh yeah.
make that choice. I think another thing, like before we wrap, talking about signs, I think I was thinking like in a physical sense of signs, but now that I'm like, you kind of talking, kind of spurred like, I have seen signs within people. So like when my dad was in the hospital, I was so angsty and upset, and I went and got my nose pierced because I kind of was in this headspace of like, no one can tell me I can't. So the day I got my nose pierced,
Do you still have a nose piercing?
Not anymore. I took it out this year, but yeah, I did have a nose piercing for a while. I stopped off at a gas station, and there's a man outside the gas station who he was homeless. He looked like Willie Nelson. And I don't know what happened, if I had like gotten him a water or if I had given him like a dollar bill or something. I'm not sure. But he and I ended up talking, and I was just such in a sad place in life, and I was so angry at the world, and I was just not in a happy place. And I met this man, and just the way he was talking about life and his joy, it just reminded me so much of my dad. And then he offered to like pump up the air in my tire, and I was like, sir, you don't need to do that. That's kind of you to offer, but you certainly don't need to pump up the air in my tire. And so this homeless man who has not much obviously to give, he gives me like his bandana, and he felt so strongly about giving me his like little bandana. And it was such like a little random act of kindness that just like for that moment I was like, oh, that reminds me of my dad, like in a sense of like the kindness you spread in the world. And so like I see these moments in people, and I think like when talking about signs, I see that a lot more of, I don't know, the random acts of kindness people do.
I think they can show up in so many ways. I mean, I think there's so much we don't understand, but I definitely think stuff like that. I'm sure they can kind of come out through different people or you know, show up in different ways. You know, I don't think it's as clear as people say it's like you're living and then you're dead. I definitely feel like there's some blurred lines with how things happen. Something not, well, I can't speak on, but I've just read stories and seen videos of like people that are like reincarnated and like they can speak about their previous lives, and they're like kids that are like super young, so they wouldn't know about like that. They wouldn't, and so it's crazy. And I'm seeing something like that, and it's like that's another one where like I have no idea how that works, but it baffles me like how that works. Like that's crazy. But I can't speak on that. I haven't experienced that, so I can't. Yeah, if anyone has experienced that or knows of a story, please share it with us because I would love to hear it.
Yes, we want to hear. We want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments somewhere.
Yeah, please let us know and comment on you can comment on this episode actually. If you're listening through Spotify, you can comment on Spotify or comment on our Instagram or TikTok or YouTube channel.
On our YouTube. Yeah.
Email us at twogirlswithgrief@gmail.com. We'd love to hear it.
Tell us your spooky stories. We want to hear them.
Yes, your signs, your dreams. Like, also share that. We'd love to hear that.
Yeah, psychic mediums. If you've done it, we want to hear about it. If you know good ones, also let us know.
Recommendations.
We're
let
open
us
to
know.
it.
Yeah, Kendall's open to it now, so
I'm open to it
let
now.
us know. Let us know. We want the tea.
Should we dive into our challenge?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So like every episode, we have a weekly challenge for you. And this week's weekly challenge is to try something a little bit unconventional to perhaps help you in your healing or help you through your grief. Do you have an idea of what you're going to do in response to this challenge, Rachel?
I feel like something that kind of helps is taking on new hobbies. And I've been seeing a lot about junk journaling. And
love that.
I definitely am someone that collects stickers and all these little things. So
me too.
I definitely am going to try that, because I think trying new hobbies and kind of anything creative or anything fun like that, I think always helps your brain. I think it kind of like boosts your mental health too, and just kind of keeps you busy. So I think that's something that people wouldn't necessarily see as helping with your grief. But I think sometimes like grief is so weird, and there's not like one way to fix grief. Like everybody's different what they want, and sometimes you just really need to like bring, like I would say, like you need to bring joy back into your life. And one way that has been working for me is like trying new hobbies. And so that's for me is like I've been seeing it. I think I have most supplies anyway, and I am a perpetual like journal buyer and abandoner. So I definitely have a ton of journals that I can use and finally get some use out of. So I am going to this weekend start junk journaling. What about you?
That is
what are you gonna
so
try?
Fun.
You should try it with me. I love journaling. Yeah,
I will. But I love your
junk journals.
Yeah, let's do it. Loved your idea earlier about journaling, like having a journal for your sister too. Like that is such a, I mean, if anything, like not only to connect with your sister if she is reading them, and like that's bringing her like so much love and connection with everybody who like she's friends with and you in her life, or her, you know, after spiritual life. But I just think that's such a like also such a healing thing to do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. Like I want to have a journal to my dad's for him something to read.
It's nice. But my therapeutic.
Yeah. And I think that's like such a like easy way to like one get the grief off your chest and onto a page and, you know, out of your body, but also like to think, oh, if my dad reads this, like I think that's just so sweet. Little notes that you leave to each other. So I definitely want to try that for myself. But I'm not a mega super religious type of person, but I am going on a Jesuit retreat next month. And so I guess I can update when I do that and tell you about that experience. I'm excited and nervous at the same time because this is something so out of what I would normally do. I was like interested. Oh, and I also saw it in Fleabag. And so then I was like, she did it. I'll do it.
Is there like yoga involved, or like
they haven't really put the itinerary up? I hope it's not like cleaning the monastery like she did in Fleabag, where she's just like scrubbing the stone floors. But it's, I don't know, it looks like a beautiful grounds. It looks very like peaceful and holistic, and something I'm always looking to like try a new experience or have a new perspective. And I think I'm really hoping it'll be good for me. So I'm excited. I'll share what that was like when it happens. And that is my little unconventional thing that I'm going to try.
That reminds me, I am going to a women's retreat in November, actually.
Yeah.
And it's called like the Petite Pause, and that is actually in Maine, and it's like in a farm thing. And I think there's going to be like yoga and like massages and like farmed table food. There's like saunas. So I'm not exactly sure the full itinerary, but it also overlaps. It's going to be during my mom's birthday. And so I wanted to kind of do something this year for my mom's birthday or
Aw.
like just kind of be in a good space.
Yeah.
So I booked that retreat and I don't think I've ever been on like an adult retreat that wasn't like work related or something.
Yeah.
So I'm also excited for that. Like for some reason, the petite pause just felt like very what I need.
Yeah. That
So
sounds like so much fun. I want to hear about that when you do it.
also Noah Khan, because I pronounce the name. Have you heard of him?
Yes, love him.
Yeah. So I mean he sings about Vermont, but because of like his music, I've just been like way more interested in that whole area.
Yeah, like New
So
England and everything.
yeah. So I've been wanting to go to Maine, so I'm definitely gonna go try some lobsters and stuff. Maine lobster on there. But
That sounds incredible.
yeah, I'm excited. This is the year of being very like proactive about my grief and figuring out what works and what I need and
You really
what
making
brings joy.
moves too.
So like I've been doing
That
a
are-
lot actually.
You have.
I've been doing a lot of things and it's been really nice. Yeah, I mean I've been doing volleyball on the weekends. I've been doing a cookbook club.
You made bread that one day?
I make bread pretty frequently.
She's a bread maker. She's a breadwinner.
Yeah. I've been doing a bunch of things to just like I feel like bring back joy and like be more social and just like I feel like there's been a lot. It's like if something's not making you happy or something that you want to do, like I'm a very like proactive person when I want to be like, and I can be.
You are.
And so, I mean, also like the dinner club and stuff like that's twice a month. So, and hosting that, it's really great for, I think our group's really great. So, but I mean, obviously things like that, they do take work to keep doing and keep organizing. But yeah, so I've been very active with the things I've been doing. So the retreat was actually one of the first things I booked for this year, but
Really?
so before I even had been doing any of this stuff, but yeah, I have been. Yeah, it's been the year of change. So, and I'm excited. And this podcast has been super healing and like fun to do. And I feel like we've also been connecting with so many other people in the grief space and learning a lot from other people too. So I think that's also been really great. So I'm just excited to see like what else comes from doing this. It's been fun.
Yeah, before we get into the rest of like the end of the show, like we would not have a podcast if it wasn't for Rachel and all her hard work on the back end. Honestly, you do so much for this and I'm just like happy to be a part of it.
It's been a group effort, but yeah, I mean it's been good. Without Kendel, I think it's just been so much easier because honestly, it's been something I've been wanting to do, but I think it didn't feel right. And then for some reason, I mean, we only had met like 3 times or something, I think, before I asked you. Maybe not even 3 times. It might have been like 2 times. Like once in the training and like twice
Then
in the group.
The actual, yeah.
So it wasn't even that long before. And then I've been thinking about already doing the podcast. And for some reason, I was like, I feel like Kendel would be like the perfect co-host. And I feel like we're just like in the same space. And I think it's been working out really well. So
the quote unquote like elders in the group
with our grief. And yeah, I just feel like it made sense and it's been working really well. And I feel like we've been developing just like a good friendship from it as well.
I agree.
And I've never talked about grief this much in my whole entire life.
Me either.
So it's been nice. It's been like, so I mean, very much so. Like even with our challenge, try something unconventional. We've been doing unconventional things for ourselves to do it, and I feel like we've been feeling so much better because of it. So see, like learn from us. We are learning.
Yeah,
it's taken
we're learning.
a while, but we've been doing good things for our grief. So yeah, learn from our mistakes, but also the good things that we've done through it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think like you and I both admire all the people in the group who identified so early on that they were like, I need a place to talk about this. Whereas like you and I waited years to come to that realization. We're like, maybe we should be talking about this with somebody.
Yeah. And I don't even know how long the dinner club's been alive for or existed, but yeah, I mean It's been really nice, and I think also having that kind of different perspective, I think is also helpful for people that are more recent in their grief and kind of having a perspective.
Yeah.
It's like an elder in grief, I don't know. But I think it does help to kind of see people in different. I don't think there are clear 5 stages of grief. Like, I feel like you're kind of in a lot of them at the same time.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I say stages of grief, I just kind of mean that we're a little past a few things, but not.
Yeah.
I don't have a clear space that I refer to us in, and I'm not referring to like the 5 stages of grief when I say that. Just we're in a different stage. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not defining it. We're kind of. I feel like we're in a different place
Yeah. Yeah.
for the
I
most
agree.
part. So
Well, and if you are listening and looking for more resources, you can find them in the show notes. And as always, we are releasing an episode every Tuesday. So we're on episode 5, and I'm pretty
yes,
proud of that.
wow, yeah, wow. Episode 5. We're moving along, and so if you don't follow us, please follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. 2 Girls with Grief Pod. Also, you can email us. We'd love to hear your challenges from any of the episodes, or if you have any questions that you would like us to try to answer or just share our opinion. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us at 2girlswithgrief@gmail.com. All this information will be in the show notes. And as a reminder, grief looks different for everybody. So if nothing we said resonates with you, doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. Doesn't mean we're doing anything wrong. It just means that everyone's different and kind of process it. So as always, have a good day, and we will see you next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.